All right, why don't we get started? Again, good day, everyone. I want to thank you for joining today's webinar by Dakota Backup, presenting Asigra Cloud Backup version 12. My name is Ahrenstorff. I'm the project manager for Dakota Backup, and I will be presenting the webinar today. All attendees are muted, but you may submit any questions along the way by typing them into the questions box, and I will answer them at the end of the webinar. So let's get started. I'd like to begin with our agenda for the webinar, including the vision behind Asigra Cloud Backup version 12, what new features are delivered in this new version, the main functionality, and why, as a partner of Dakota Backup, you should be interested in these new capabilities. Finally, we'll detail the upgrade schedule. So let's move on to the vision behind Asigra Cloud Backup version 12. I'm going to spend just a couple minutes on the next 3 slides reviewing our industry and Asigra in general. Today, as you know, we face numerous challenges in IT, including separate operations and workforces between multiple office locations. The traditional small to medium business may no longer operate from a single small business server, especially now that Microsoft has maybe even discontinued that product in the future. Today, that business may leverage platform as a service, software as a service, or infrastructure as a service within their company. They're likely virtualizing or will be virtualizing much of their physical infrastructure. And of course, critical business data continues to grow, especially in regulated industries such as financial and medical. Finally, users are now demanding support for many different types of devices, from Apple iOS, Android, and Windows 8. And they're all in different form factors. Asigra Cloud Backup has previously supported heterogeneous environments, spanning Windows, Linux, and Mac on all types of different hardware. And this continues in version 12, encompassing the protection of new platforms with 3 major development principles, as I'll show on the next slide. First, business data now resides in many different locations, in different formats and platforms, from local on-site data to cloud applications, Windows and Linux, servers and mobile devices. Much of the data on these diverse platforms still needs to be protected. Second, many of today's backup and recovery solutions are limited in their ability to back up a diverse environment. They are point solutions that have the following negative impacts. They can increase complexity. They divide responsibilities. They create islands of protected data, multiple storage locations for backup data, and lastly, these point solutions can complicate the recovery process and extend recovery times. And the third, in today's electronic business climate, most companies simply cannot operate without their critical data, and they need recovery now. Asigra Cloud Backup version 12 continues on our vision to solve these 3 major issues facing our business customers. We believe that data protection is going to, over time, become an attribute and an integral part of computing in general. Data backup is expanding the use of APIs by third-party vendors and increasingly using centralized management. Data protection is no longer an outlier of information technology. Our long-term goal is to provide a holistic platform for data protection. Asigra Cloud Backup version 12 expands on the previous capabilities of the product to reach this goal. Think about those point solutions and how they target specific technology, such as one single virtualization vendor, but they completely ignore a customer's mobile workforce or physical server farm. And the backup data likely resides within a specific location for that point solution instead of a single repository. This slide represents the various locations that can be protected by a single platform with one data repository as delivered by Asigra Cloud Backup version 12. Very few vendors can match the extensive support matrix offered by Asigra. I'm going to real quickly point out that Asigra has been in operation since 1986 as a data backup company. They do have numerous technology firsts within the industry and have led the charge over the last 3 decades to protect the entire digital footprint as securely as possible. Dakota Backup has been a senior partner of Asigra for 8 years and participates in the Asigra Partner Advisory Council and the Asigra beta testing sessions for new versions. Now, let's move on to the new features of Asigra Cloud Backup version 12. In version 12, we are delivering the industry's first enterprise cloud backup and recovery software to provide support for cloud-based applications and platforms, starting with Salesforce.com. Secondly, virtual disaster recovery for VMware environments with offsite VMware recovery of virtual machines in the Dakota Backup SAS-70 Tier 3 data centers. Third is comprehensive NetApp snapshot protection and management, again to offsite NetApp storage hardware at the Dakota Backup data centers. Fourth is enhanced endpoint device support for Apple, iOS, and Android. And finally, we have some additional efficiencies and capabilities I'll detail last in the webinar. Let's take a look at the protection of data from a cloud-based application first. In version 12, we are initially offering support for Salesforce.com, the largest online CRM provider out there with over 100,000 business customers. You'll notice from this diagram that protecting a cloud instance of Salesforce.com is no different than protecting their LAN environment. It offers the same encryption and security mechanisms, schedules, retention, notifications, and all the benefits on the back end, such as autonomic healing. This is nothing more than a new backup set, defining the credentials of Salesforce.com accounts and scheduling the backup with notifications. This new functionality allows Salesforce objects found in the database and tables to be backed up and restored, including the database schema. And it can be done either to an external database or to the Salesforce.com cloud, as I'll detail in the next slide. Salesforce even recommends their users back up their Salesforce data in their end user guide, but we found that very few actually do. We currently support the enterprise and unlimited editions of Salesforce. These represent the most popular editions of Salesforce.com. Because we can back up the database tables individually, it's possible to configure different schedules for the data types in Salesforce. For example, you may back up the contacts hourly throughout the day because they change often, but the campaigns maybe only once a week. And again, this is based on the business processes that modify those specific types of data. So it's the customer's preference. The next slide compares today's built-in Salesforce backup versus Asigra's solution. Currently, Salesforce offers a simple backup service, providing a once-per-week backup of numerous zipped CSV files that a customer can download. And these are not encrypted, they're not secured, and they're not verified for integrity. Restoring data from these files means uploading them manually into Salesforce. It's a laborious process, usually requiring assistance from Salesforce technical support, and apparently most customers aren't even using this backup service today. Additionally, the Salesforce SLA may even charge fees to end users to restore the data. With Asigra, the process is controlled by the end user and you, the IT service provider, with automation, generations, encryption, and security. In addition to the software as a service offered by Salesforce.com, we can offer data protection for platform as a service, again starting in version 12 on IBM's Smart Cloud, as I'll show on the next slide. We now support the backup of applications and data that run on the infrastructure and platform as a service with IBM's Smart Cloud. Not only can you back up applications and data, it's now possible to run the Asigra Cloud backup software within the IBM Smart Cloud as a fully supported and integrated partner with IBM. So that introduces the new features around cloud-to-cloud backup and recovery. Now we'll move on to the endpoint data protection advances in version 12. Since version 11, Asigra has offered endpoint protection of Apple iOS and Android devices, including smartphones and tablets. The market growth of these devices is really amazing, and their use among businesses is increasing more and more. Version 12 expands on the types of data we can protect on these devices. It enhances performance of backup and restore. It adds common file elimination with incremental forever backups. And lastly, it offers detection of different wireless access, such as Wi-Fi or 3G for data backup scheduling. The next slide indicates the benefits to your customers. So data is increasingly being created, consumed, and edited outside the corporate boundaries. Much of it still needs to be protected, however. Many office workers today that create information have both a traditional desktop and more than one mobile device, such as a laptop and a smartphone or tablet. However, many organizations do not have defined data protection policies for these types of devices. And this results in unprotected intellectual property or employees using unsecure alternatives such as Dropbox, SugarSync, Team Drive, etc. Here we see our currently supported endpoints with Linux, Android, iOS, and including Windows 8 smartphone, which is on the product roadmap for support. All DS clients are available from the vendor's app stores for easy access. And finally, this brings us to Asigra's new support for NetApp snapshots. Another principle during the development of version 12 was expanding on the snapshot protection that begun in version 11.2. This is now a quick and efficient way to protect snapshots utilizing the hardware capabilities. This also includes a snapshot management graphical interface that can be used to integrate snapshot-based data protection into the overall backup and recovery strategy of your customers. In this way, snapshots can be part of the backup and recovery team's responsibility versus part of the storage administrator's role. This allows the use of a single interface for a comprehensive view of enterprise-wide data protection, eliminating yet one more data protection island. Snapshot backups can significantly reduce the backup window, especially for the large data sets out there today. The next slide illustrates the snapshot diagram. We currently support NetApp storage as detailed in the version 12 support matrix, with additional vendors on the product roadmap, including EMC, and Dell EqualLogic. Through the Asigra DS client, only block-level changes, the point-in-time copies of the file system, are moved to the backup repository at Dakota Backup into our top-tier NetApp hardware. Snapshots can be taken frequently, the performance impact is minimal, and they complete in very short periods of time. The Asigra Cloud Backup includes the Graphical Snapshot Manager to configure, catalog, and monitor snapshot backup activities, all helping to integrate snapshots into your data protection plans. Now, we'll move on to the virtual disaster recovery in this next slide. With version 12 of Asigra Cloud Backup, new functionality has been added, allowing our partners more options to recover a customer's VMware environment. We have two new features called Local DS VDR and Remote DS VDR. The Local DS VDR creates full backup copies of virtual machines onto storage presented to the VMware environment, which can be local storage, NFS, or iSCSI, and it does it on a scheduled basis. But it does not send any data offsite to Dakota Backup. If they are already a Dakota Backup customer with offsite data, this feature will be offered at no additional charge, none whatsoever. It's simply enabled by Dakota Backup, and you can configure the backup set on the DS client. Now then, Remote DS VDR takes advantage of the VMware VADP and change block tracking protocols. This is configured as a normal VMware VADP backup going off-site, and when the incremental backup completes, the DS system actually triggers a restore process of that virtual machine or multiple virtual machines into a dedicated VMware recovery environment we have provisioned in our data center on HP servers and NetApp storage, acting as a warm virtual machine copy, ready to be turned on at a moment's notice. This customer would then be provisioned a public IP address by Dakota Backup for remote access, while they work maybe to recover to a dedicated business site. The Remote DS VDR process can also be run on demand at the time of a declared disaster, instead of being scheduled after the backup. But of course, in this case, the recovery time objective would be longer, while the restore process churns through that VMware backup set and copies the virtual machines to our VMware environment in the data center. This capability significantly enhances your business continuity offerings. The next slide diagrams the process for DSVDR. As you can see from the customer's premises block, the DS client works through a local DSVDR plugin to create local copies of virtual machines. In the other block, the remote DSVDR is yet another plugin within the Dakota Backup data center, whereby we configure the virtual machine recovery process based upon your preferences. Lastly, we have already provisioned the VMware Compute and NetApp storage environment to support this service today. Asigra Cloud Backup also solves the strategic problems around environments that are common today, a combination of physical and virtual machines. The rapid expansion of virtualization into companies' IT portfolios of solutions continues to drive the need for a holistic backup and recovery service, able to back up the entire digital footprint, including those physical and virtual servers, along with other platforms we've already discussed. Moving on now, we'll touch upon the new capabilities of the DS NOC, our web portal, and a few other important details. Many of you are aware of the web portal, officially known as the DS NOC. Previous to version 12, it was a useful tool to monitor all the backup clients and activities and possibly assist in the diagnosis of any problems. However, with version 12, the DS NOC can be used to remotely monitor and configure a DS client. This extends to many configuration options, including customer account information, default DS client settings, notifications, schedule details for backup sets, retention rules, and the backup sets themselves. This allows you, the service provider, to view, edit, and update the configuration of DS clients under your account, whether they are Windows, Mac, or Linux full-featured DS clients, the DS mobile client, or even the DS notebook client. In addition, the DS client configuration, we have the ability to exclude suspended backup sets from the backup status report that so many of you utilize. And we can include the DS client event log in the backup status reports, further helping you troubleshoot any issues. And that brings us to just the final editions of version 12, offering support for the following new operating systems and applications: Windows 8 and Server 2012 support. We've got item level recovery for Microsoft SharePoint 2010 Service Pack 1. There's improved support for IBM iSeries, Oracle 11G R2 Express support, and again, we have a more efficient recovery assurance in that the DS system can now retrieve any corrupted files on our backend storage from the replication DS system before requesting it from the DS client. The DS client SMTP notifications now support TLS and SSL email. The VMware vSphere 5.1 is now supported, and Microsoft SQL 2012 support using VDI and VSS. So that kind of rounds out the ultimate in data protection and the support matrix additions. All right, on January 4th, we'll be upgrading our first DS system, and notifications will be sent out to our partners who are on that system later this week as a reminder. In the next week, on January 8th, we'll be upgrading the remaining DS systems, and again, notifications will be sent out to our partners on those systems later this week. If you have any technical questions regarding the upgrade, please submit them to our technical support team at support@dakotabackup.com. And now I'll answer any questions that may have come in during the webinar. One of the questions was about Hyper-V support. I can't give you an ETA, but it is a top priority on the product roadmap. I can tell you that it is in development. They are working on it. They realize that Hyper-V is an expanding platform in virtualization, especially with Server 2012. So again, I don't have a specific date, but we will definitely be on the lookout for that, and we'll notify, obviously, all of our partners when that functionality becomes available. And that appears to be it for questions. If you guys have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll follow up offline to answer any of those. I want to thank everyone for attending our webinar today. I hope everyone has a safe and enjoyable holiday and a prosperous 2013. So thanks for attending the webinar, and goodbye for now.